application called LiveShowy. Since the last stream, I've made a little bit of progress on some things. So I think this live stream's going to change a little bit. So it's been kind of following pretty closely the work I've been doing on LiveShowy. I think throughout the week, I'm getting a little bit more time to work on things. So this will be kind of catching a glimpse of work that I've done kind of between live streams, as well as a couple of hours, maybe 3 or 4 hours of additional work. So yeah, hope you're having a nice Saturday. It's really nice outside. I've got my windows open. It would be a great day to be outside in the backyard, but I'll be doing that later on today. So yeah, what have I done with LiveShowy lately? Well, first, before we get to this, I've got the server running in the background. Looks like I'm missing something here from the stream. Just one quick second. Something happened where it wasn't showing my video. There we go. Okay, so this is the LiveShowy. I'm not going to go into everything I've done before, but I've got what I've been working on lately has been rooms. So let's see, Okay, so this is what I started out calling a collaboration room. I think for LiveShowy, the way I envision this is it's just going to be a room. So when you are let's say when you create an account on LiveShowy, you'll be able to create a room if you're a musician. And that way you can collaborate with other musicians. And so whenever you create a room, you will by default be the owner. You will ideally be able to transfer a room to someone else if you need to, say, another band member, or for whatever reason it may need to be transferred to someone else. But also, one thing you'll be able to do is add collaborators. So those would be other musicians that can also play music with you in real time, and then watchers. So a room is going to be pretty limited. It's going to be, I haven't really settled on a hard number yet, but I think, maybe 5 to 10 users total would be the limit. So that's kind of the intent of a room, is kind of like a practice room. If you're in a band, it might just be you. It might be a duo. So there might be a couple people, or, with rock bands, it's typically 3 to 4 people, and maybe a couple of friends, managers, whoever else might be watching. So that's kind of what I envision a room being used as. So that's what I've got. That's what I've been working on, and I'll be wrapping up some work on this today. I've got most of my acceptance criteria for a collaborative room satisfied. So what I'll be tackling the first little bit today is authorizing only owners, collaborators, and watchers can access a room. And then I think that will mark this as completed. And I'm kind of on the fence about maybe adding latency monitoring, as like that kind of might be a nice to have. It may not be super urgent for the first version of the room, because really I think whenever I merge this branch, it's not going to have instruments. You're not going to actually be able to play music in a room. But yeah, so latency may be something it would be more important later on whenever instruments and interactions are added. But what I have so far is a room that can be joined. So you can, I don't have any links in the nav bar. I may actually be working on nav bar redesign later on in the stream today. But as it is currently, you can, so this is what it looks like. In my account, I have, so I'm going to start using the settings page as kind of like a dumping ground for things that you can do with your account. So currently I have a room. It's called Cream Cheese. So I'm using Faker to generate random room names. I want to make something kind of fun. So that's what it's doing here. Now, if I delete this room, I don't have any rooms. And if I go to Postico in the database, since I've deleted it, there's no rooms here in the database. Now, so whenever there's no room, it just shows a message that a room would allow you to collaborate with a small group of users. So I can create a room. You can see everything's happening super fast because it's on my local machine, but it's also because of LiveView. So now I have a room in the database. The name of the room is called Apple Cider Vinegar. By default, it's a private room, and it has a status of unlocked. So I count these things as different. So like you might have a private room that you only share with certain individuals. A public room might be listed on a rooms index somewhere. Just kind of floating ideas here. And then a status is kind of a separate concern. So a status would be like unlocked, locked, deleted might even be a status. Like if I don't want to delete the row out of the database, I might just give it a deleted status. That's something I could kind of factor in later. But you'll see that each room has an ID. It has an owner. So this is whoever creates the room is assigned as the owner by default. And it shows you who is inserted or who inserted the row. So same ID there. This points to a user row in the database. And if there was an update to the room, if I changed the name or something, then you would see an updated by user ID here, as well as the timestamp would be updated. So that's on the database side of things. And let's see here. So one thing I haven't done is I haven't added any UI for like adding collaborators. But before we get to that, let me just open the room here. So from my user settings page, I can open a room. So that's just going to go into the room, or I can delete the room, which just for now, it just deletes the row out of the database. So if I open the room, you'll see that I have, so in LiveView within Phoenix, actually, there's a module. It's a feature. I'm trying to figure out how to describe it, but it's called Presence. So Presence, PubSub, those are two technologies in Phoenix that allow you to listen for events and update the page, or send events across the WebSocket so that the page can be updated. And it's really cool. So let's see, I think I need to demonstrate this well, I need to add myself as a collaborator. And I need to find the room ID. Well, the room ID is right here. So I'm going to grab this room ID. I've done this recently, so I'm going to just update the room ID from the last time I ran the command. So this is the function that's going to be called. It's going to add a room collaborator. And so it takes the room ID, the user ID of the collaborator, and then the user ID of whoever's adding this record. So that could be useful for auditing purposes in the future. So you see when that succeeds, we get a response with a room collaborator. Now in the database, what's a room collaborator? So these are actually separate join tables. So instead of adding like a column with an array of user IDs, like calling that column collaborators, or a separate column for watchers, that would work, but it wouldn't necessarily give me, it wouldn't be robust for the future. So, and it'll also be kind of conflating a couple of different things into this single table. So what I've decided to do is, and I think this is something I covered a little bit, at least last on the previous live stream. So I've got these join tables. So we have, users are in one table, we have rooms in another table, and then of course there can only be one owner of a room, at least the way it's designed currently. But then I might want to have multiple collaborators, and I might want to have multiple watchers. So 0 to many. I don't have any hard limits on that currently, but what happens whenever you add a collaborator is it adds a row in this room collaborators table. So this has its own ID. We have the room ID and user ID. So this is the room where this user is going to be a collaborator. This says who inserted the collaborator, and you get timestamps. There's not really any purpose or reason for an updated at timestamp here, but anyway, it's fine. So so that allows me to, let's see if I refresh the page here. That will show that I've got a second, like I've got a second account that I've created earlier called Owen2. And so now this will list all of the collaborators associated with this room, and it would do the same thing if I had any watchers here. So you would see these kind of nicely kind of tag-shaped usernames. And I've got this dot, so this dot will show green whenever the user is connected. So whenever they're actually connected to this room. And otherwise it's just a kind of a gray dot, so that just to indicate that this person is not connected. So what does that actually look like? I'm going to move this over a little bit. I'm going to open a new incognito window. Then I'm going to log in. I'm going to log in. So this lower window is going to be Owen2. I'm going to give it my Touch ID. Very good. So it's authorized. And then now, because I don't have a quick and easy way, of course, I can actually use this copy link. So let me see here. I'm just going to copy some random text first. If I hit Control V, that's what I get. Now, if I want to copy this link, I want to make this easy for users. So I have a copy link button, and now that's in my clipboard. So if I hit paste somewhere else, that's what I get. So there we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and close that. So I don't know if you noticed this, but whenever, so let me go to a different page. So keep an eye on this Owen account right here. So this collaborator, whenever I go back to the page, you see how it lights up green. So this is one of the many nice features we have in Phoenix is PubSub, presence, and so that's what's being used here. And this all gets communicated over WebSockets. So I didn't have to refresh this page to show whenever the second user connected to the page. I did have to reset or refresh the page earlier because I added the collaborator through the IEX shell instead of doing it through like a user interface, just because that hasn't been built yet. But whenever I do add, like say a button to add collaborators and add watchers here, I'll be sending messages through the application through PubSub. It will say user added, and it will say, like there will be like a room topic. So it'll say room : the room ID. So this ID here, that would be the topic. Just to illustrate that, behind the scenes, this is what the topic would look like. It would be room : whatever the room ID is. So so any important changes that I want to respond to in real time, those are going to be broadcasted through PubSub. And presence is a feature built on top of PubSub that will, anytime a user connects to a live view, it will track whether the user is connected or not, and kind of remove and add them to a list of users who have joined the live view or the channel. It's actually under the hood, it's a WebSocket channel. Or whenever you leave the page, it will broadcast another update to the room saying that a user has left. So there's a joins and a leaves key. We'll take a look at that here in a moment with the code, but that's what's working. So just to kind of button that up again, if I have two browsers open with two separate accounts, I can, you can see activity. Just imagine these were two different people in two different locations. You would see whenever someone is one of the collaborators has connected. So that's going to be really cool. That's going to make it nice to collaborate with people. So that's the whole point of these rooms. So one thing I need to tackle, I think I'm gonna break out adding collaborators and watchers as a separate feature. So I think before I merge this branch, I'll write an issue for that within my GitHub project. But one thing I want to do before that is I want to authorize users within a room. So previously I've added, I think I maybe talked about this last week or the week before. I added this on mount callback. So this is a session hook, and this is the default session hook within this authorization hooks module. But what it does is it looks for the current user if the socket is connected. It takes the user's current roles and then looks at whichever view or live view is being loaded onto the socket, and then checks to make sure that the user has a role, or like it doesn't actually prevent a user from viewing that view, but it assigns whatever allowed events they have for that live view. This is something I will be adding more restrictions to this later, because I want to make sure that you're not able to view a live view, and this is where it gets confusing to explain, but I don't want you to be able to access a live view where you have no permissions. So it doesn't block that currently. It just kind of takes whatever permissions you have for a live view and then populates that into a list of allowed events. Otherwise, it's an empty list. So anyway, that's the previous hook, the existing hook. The new hook is going to be this room on mount callback. So in this case, we're actually using the URL parameter. So this is using this is going to be the room ID. So that shows up here as a parameter. I'm not using anything out of the session. And then I'm going to return the socket at the end of this. So for now, this is just a placeholder. It's not really doing anything except it logs, or puts the room ID into the shell here just to be inspected. But what am I trying to accomplish now? So I could do a couple of things with this. I could assign the room to the socket, and I could move this particular line of code out of this mount callback and into the on mount callback. And this might be kind of brain twisty, but I think I'm going to go ahead and remove that here. I'm going to paste it there because I want this room to be assigned for any live views that go through this on mount hook, or any live views that use this live view hook or session hook. So I'm going to go ahead and start assigning things here. So that means I can remove this room assigned here. Currently I'm listing the public rooms, and then I'm assigning that to the socket as well, because the reason is, let me refresh that. Layout view. So let me undo that real quick. Layout view. Okay, that's confusing. Let me just revert everything I just did. Put that there, and then I think this is what happens when you're talking and coding at the same time. Okay, so what's happening? Wow, I really broke it. Maybe it's this. Maybe that's the problem. All right, let's just, this could be one of those things where I just stop the server and restart it. I think it's in a bad place currently. I may have messed up the router here as well. Let's see. All right, let's restart the server. Hey, this is the nature of live performance, right? Okay. Kind of have a feeling if I would have just restarted the server with the session hook into place, it would have been fine. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So I want to show an error to a user who does not either own the room or is not a collaborator or watcher. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. So that's this line right here. Must disallow users who are not an owner, collaborator, or watcher. So that's, I think that's what I want to focus on here. So, all right, I'm going to restart what I did previously. This was taking a room ID. It's ignoring the session, and then it's taking the socket. So for now, it's just going to continue the socket unchanged. It's going to IO inspect room ID, which is room ID. Okay, nothing's failing yet. Then with room live, I'm going to use the on mount callback. I'm going to take LiveShowy web session hooks authorization room. I think that's all it needs. Okay, nothing's broken yet. Okay, very good. Everything's still working. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and copy this room here so I can try to assign it again. Let's see. Okay. Oh, we gotta alias rooms. There we go. Okay, so now we'll have the room assigned to the socket. We need to do that again here. And then what else? So the room will already be assigned here. I can take the room ID from the params. I don't need to break out the room itself from the assigns. Then, yeah, I think I'll keep all of the PubSub and presence, not the PubSub, the presence topic listed here as well. Okay. Oh, okay. So that's where it does need the room because it's being used in this function down here. There we go. Okay, so that's working now. We're at least populating the room. And then now we can take the current user out of the assigns. And we can make sure that the current user is either the owner or in collaborators or watchers. How do I? So I'll do this kind of quick and dirty, and then see if there's a bit cleaner way to do it. If current user and I think I'm going to check the ID instead of the whole user, because there might be preloads and that may not, like even the same user may not match exactly if they're not being preloaded with the same data. So if current user ID is not the owner ID and current user, I need to just take the current user ID. And if user ID not in enum, this is going to be a little bit funky. Room.collaborators. Go ahead and get the do end block before I forget. So what it's doing there is it's checking to see if the user ID matches the owner ID. I need to flip this. So I think I want, instead of saying if not, I think I want to say if the user is the owner, or if the user is in the collaborators, or if the user is in watchers. Go ahead and load the socket. You know what? I just remembered I have a helper function to put the, I think I called it get tagged metas. This may be a helper function actually. So currently it's a private function in the room live module. I'm actually gonna sit down so I think. All right, so, okay. So this is designed to work specifically with presence data. So it's a list of users where the key is a user ID and the value is a user struct or schema. And then it takes the room and then the user ID here. So this is actually, this would be a good helper function. And this could actually live in the rooms context module. Hang on, I've got yard work right outside the window. I'm going to close that window. Okay. So I've got get tag, user ID, room. Okay, if I move this into the rooms context, then in that module room, like a room is typically the first argument followed by whatever else. So I think I would want to flip this around. Go ahead and do that here before I start moving things to other modules. Okay. Get tag. This is going to live in rooms. This is going to be a public function. Then it's going to go rooms. Okay, I'm calling it get user tag. I don't think that this is kind of like a get user tag. Okay, let me comment this. I keep flipping around to too many things here. I'm gonna close this, gonna close that, gonna close that as well. Okay, like what should this function be called? It's not a role the way I've defined them elsewhere in the app. It's like a live role is quite like a very different structure of data. But this is a role within the context of a room. I think that's what I'm going to call it. Get user role. For this room, this user ID. Okay, I think that makes sense. And could be elaborated later on. Now I've got an error here. Oh, I always do this lately. Forget the equal sign before socket. Okay, we've already seen presence working. I'm going to go ahead and close that extra window. I'm going to go ahead and I need to add some guards to check if the user is a current user. Oh, and hey, thanks Silimba for following. That's cool. Let's see. So this function in the rooms context is going to get the user role for a room. I think here we're going to say, what's up? All right, so that's going to be a room struct. No, it's got to be a room. There we go. Yep, okay, so that's already aliased. Now this is mapping over collaborator IDs, room watcher IDs. It's only looping over them once each. Oh, thanks. So thank you, Salimba. So if the user ID is the owner ID, then this user is the owner. If the user ID is in the collaborator IDs, it's a collaborator. If the user ID is in the watcher IDs, it's a watcher. Otherwise, the user does not have a role. Okay, I think that'll work. So now I can say, okay, so that will come back with one of these atoms or nil. Okay, rooms dot get user role for the room and current user ID. Now this is going to throw an error because the socket, this on mount is going to be called before the socket is mounted. I should say before it's connected, so the user initially will be nil. User role, so think I'm going to wrap this all in a connected check. Curious, Salimba, have you worked with Elixir Phoenix before? And have I met you in person? Because I don't recognize your screen name. Four years, nice. 4 more years, right? 4 more years. Okay. Cool. Well, welcome to the live stream, and thanks for following it again. That's cool. So, okay. So now I'm going to be getting a user role atom. I think I'm going to call this a user room role just to be a little bit more specific. I'll do the same thing here. User room role. User room role. Okay. Let's see, is this going to... No function clause matching in live mount. Okay, yeah, so it's not matching. It's not matching here because this room is not being assigned whenever the socket is not connected. So I guess I got to give it a empty value at first. All right, let's see if that worked. Okay, so the template, template doesn't like that. Let's see. There we go. Okay, back to working. Let's see. All right, so now I can kind of safely work on this piece here. So it's only gonna, this piece of the on mount hook is only gonna be called if the socket's actually connected. So like whenever you load the page for the very first time, even if you do a refresh, it's just an HTTP request for the first few milliseconds before it actually upgrades to a WebSocket connection. That's why I have to do this kind of dance between connected and disconnected socket. Okay, so now I've got the user room role. This is probably going to turn into a with statement because I'm starting to see a nested if here. Yeah, so like if I do this quick and dirty, this would be user room role. So at this point, I would take the socket. So this is for someone who does not have who is not the owner, a collaborator, or a watcher for this room. I would clear whatever flash message is already there. I would put a new flash. This would be an error. I would say you are not authorized to access this room. I think we'll leave it at that. And then I think after that it's halt. Maybe it's not halt. Oh, no, I don't halt because halt's the first keyword. Okay. All right. Get user room role. Okay, so it's saying it's trying to call this get user room role, but it's saying that get room ID is invalid. Is that right? So this room C5CA, C5CA. Is it not finding the room? That's the room. Okay. Let's IO inspect that. That's weird. Why does it work 1 minute and not the next? That's really weird. I can refresh the page and every other time it loads or finds the room. What's up with that? Wonder if it's rooms EXS 31. Oh, I see. So 58. Oh, okay. So whenever I assign nil, hang on, I wonder what happens if I halt this. Okay, so if you're gonna halt, you've got to redirect. That makes sense. I don't think that's exactly the error that I was seeing a minute ago, but let me go ahead and fix that. Fix that. Push. Redirect. This will be 2 routes. Landing path, socket. Is it index? Yeah, index. Okay, so landing path, index. That should be right. Okay, so then this is coming from here. So this is happening whenever I allow the socket to continue. So it's loading. Okay, maybe I'm gonna see if this hack will fix it. So I'm gonna give it a default room struct. that. That doesn't work either. So what do I do when the socket is not connected? I think before this gets real crazy, I think I'm gonna go ahead and make this a with statement because I've already got two ifs nested here. It's already hurting my brain. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that with. Okay, then the next clause would be I think I'm what happens if this is okay. So this is going to go I did read you're not supposed well I think the quote is under no circumstances are you to use tagged tuples within with statements the way I'm doing it here. So I'm you know, I don't know. This helps me make sense of the with statement. So like what happens if you don't have these tagged tuples? So if I just did connected socket true without the tuple wrapper, then that makes it a little bit more confusing about where things are failing. I get the reason not to do this. I think you would want to. I get the reasoning to do this because like this is just adding a more words and more code, but I don't know. I don't quite understand the alternative, so I'm going to stick with this for now. Let's see. Also, don't want to get too distracted, so go ahead and move this here. Go ahead and comment out the rest of this if statement. Okay, so I've got a user. So the current user must be a user struct. The room must be a room struct. If that's the case, then I can say user room role room role. And then this we go here. What am I? Oh, I got to alias room. There we go. Okay, so I think that fixes that. And then here I can add a guard when not is nil room role. That's a little bit long, I'll admit, but hopefully this still makes sense. So here's the way this function works at the moment. So first thing we do is we get the room ID that's from the parameters. And then if the socket is connected, we're going to assert that the current user is actually a user struct. We're going to, I don't even need this new variable actually. Do this. So then, same here. That cleans it up a little bit. Okay, so if the socket is connected, and if the current user is actually a user struct, because it could be nil for the first few milliseconds, and then if the room is actually a room struct, then we're going to get the user room role with the room, the current user ID, and as long as that is not nil, we're going to return the socket and assign the room. And I think that's all I need for the happy path. Now I can start handling unhappy paths. So if connected is false, I'm going to try just passing the socket along. I think up here, just because, so socket, I think I'm going to go ahead and assign like a nil or empty room up here, just so that there's always a fallback in place, and then it would be overwritten here. That looks confusing. I'll probably update that later. Okay, so if connected false, continue with the socket unchanged. If the user, don't you want to get the room only when the socket is connected? Line 56. Probably. I mean, yeah, I could do this. I think the only reason I had it up there was just to keep this with statement a little bit cleaner, because that's not pretty. But I mean, it works. It's just, it's not pretty. No, what I'm kind of pausing on is like what do I do like for the few milliseconds where current user is nil? Like before, so like the current user is actually going to be mounted through another WebSocket. Not through another WebSocket, but through another session hook. I can actually show you that. So this is how a user gets assigned to the socket. I have a init assigns module. Let's see. So long story short, it assigns the current user to the socket here, assuming some things have succeeded previously. So there are a few milliseconds where current user is nil, like whenever the socket hasn't fully connected. So I'm just kind of on the fence about, like, do I just always let the socket continue no matter what? Or let me flip this actually on its head. So if room role, I'm gonna handle the known cases first. So if the room role is nil, then that's when I want to halt the socket and say you're not authorized. Okay, and then maybe for the moment, any other failures, we're going to let the socket continue. This is going to cause some problems in the live module, in the live view module, I think. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Okay, hey, we're at least back to like working half the time. So I'll take it. Let's see. I'll take it for the second. So, but this is where the problem lies. So, whenever so this is allowing the socket to continue even whenever there is no user, whenever there's no room potentially, basically when the socket's disconnected. Let me just inspect whatever's happening here so I can kind of see where the error is happening. Connected false. Yep. Okay, so like this is the tricky thing. Like, what do I want to happen whenever the socket is disconnected? I don't know. Like the first thing that comes to mind is to put like a loading assign, like loading true, loading false. And that would let me kind of check within the LiveView module. But before I make a bunch of changes here, I'm going to look at the LiveView module. Okay, so this, as it stands right now, this live view will be mounted sometimes with a user, sometimes with a room, sometimes with no room. So maybe here I also want to only populate all of this whenever the socket is connected. Let me take a look at my template here. So okay, yeah, so I'm listing public rooms if there is no room. Okay, so I think I'm going to shuffle things around a wee bit. Okay, so these lines are going to move up into this connected area here. Then I'm going to take this whole thing. Public rooms will be empty. I'm not going to look that up unless this does not match else. And this will move up here. Okay. Voila. It's not perfect, but it works well enough. So, of course, you don't see that ugly error message if you're being patched or redirected within the same live session scope. So what that means is like if I'm on the settings page, where am I? So like if I'm navigating between any of these routes that are in this scope, this live session scope, then it's not going to like do a HTTP request, which is nice. It means that I can do this without seeing that error. But if I like reload the page or navigate to the page manually, or like, you know, someone sends me a link, I will, currently it will render an error message just for a blink of an eye. I think that's okay. I think I'm going to live with that for a little bit and then optimize it a little bit later on. I do have a note to add. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this room unused alias there. So I do want to subscribe to user and room changes, but those I've not added PubSub to those modules yet. That's actually pretty easy to do. Why not do that now? So I'm going to go to rooms. I'm going to give this like a base topic. This is another thing I was thinking about, just as I was thinking about like how I want to use PubSub within this application. So on the first prototype I built for Big Elixir, I was PubSubbing just to like a general topic name for each module. So like this, I would have, in the first version I used, like I would have a users topic, a rooms topic, a user roles topic, and then every change was broadcasted to that channel, and then I could filter events or messages by user ID or whatever within the module that was consuming those events. In this case, I want to be a little bit smarter about these messages being broadcast. So my plan currently is to, and there's a little bit of trade-off here. So at least it seems like there's a trade-off. So I want to, like if there's an update to a room, I want to broadcast that update to like a topic just for that room. So it's not being consumed by all other, rooms within the application. The trick is like if I'm say an admin and I'm looking at a table of rooms, or I don't know, maybe the public rooms list as a user, maybe it would be nice to see those changes in real time, even if I'm not like connected to that room individually. But that would mean, I think that would mean broadcasting, either broadcasting to two topics, like a rooms topic and then a room : room ID topic, or subscribing to every room. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave out the index or like the admin use case here, and I'm just gonna stick with like individual topics for now. And we'll kind of go from there. So let's see, and the only things that are really important to broadcast are going to be create update events and delete events. So like you want to like basically redirect everyone out of this room if it's been deleted or updated to a status that you know, shouldn't, like where it shouldn't be accessible. Create room. Okay, so this is so I'm using my previous version as a reference. So I was using Phoenix PubSub. Okay. LiveShowy web.pubsub. So there's going to be base topic. Okay, I think I have an idea of what I want this to look like. So there we go. I think this will work. So whenever I create a room, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So no one's going to be subscribed to a room if it hasn't been created. So I think in this case, it would just be base topic. Okay, this is starting to click together a little bit. So whenever a room's created, we're just going to use the base topic, which is rooms. We're going to say a room has been created. This is the room. So that way within my live views, I can just take that room, append it to the list, and not have to like fetch from the database all of the rooms. That's going to be really cool. That's going to be really cool. Okay. So now, okay, I'm going to copy this. This is going to be slightly different. Okay, and then this is going to be base topic : room.id. This needs to be interpolated or concatenated. I prefer interpolation. There we go, and then this needs to be returned. So, okay, updated room. Sweet. That's a little bit long, so I'm going to break this into new lines. Should probably be consistent, so I'm going to do that here as well. Cool. So far, so good. We're going to update the room, add a room. Okay, sweet. So now I can kind of do the same thing with these collaborator and watcher functions as well. Now, do I want to abstract this a little bit? Because it is a little bit copy-pasty. Room ID. Nice catch. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Eagle eyes. Thank you. Right. Yeah. Room ID. Okay. Trying to figure out where do I want to put this. Do I put this in this, like, do I put a helper function here or like in a separate like helper module? I think for now I'm going to do a function here. Broadcast. So what is it going to take? It's going to take I don't think that can be abstracted. At least I don't see a way to yet, because like I think these, so like that's going to be different each time I call this function or each time I send a broadcast. It's going to change enough that it, like, that abstraction is not really going to work, which is fine. So, okay, so a little bit of copy pasting never hurt anybody, right? Okay, so actually this should be more specific. So this is going to actually require a room ID. It's going to require a user ID. Then it's going to require inserted. I don't know. I don't actually need, like, those are going to be checked in the chain set. So I don't really need to pluck those out here. What I actually need though is just the room ID. Okay, is that what I need? So I've got OK collaborator, PubSub to the room ID that a collaborator has been added. Then return the collaborator. Okay. Similar thing here. Room. Oh, this doesn't have a room ID. Oh, the collaborator. That's a room ID. There we go. Deleted. Okay, does that make sense? So it takes a collaborator. Yeah, it'll have a room ID. Okay, good, that'll work. So then I'm broadcasting to the collaborators room ID when they've been deleted. Probably don't need the room prefix on these two. Yeah, because we're just talking about the piece of data that was changed or added or whatever. Hey, thanks, Silimba. Hope I'm pronouncing that decently. Thanks for coming. I live stream every Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. So, yeah. And I post these on YouTube as well. You can find me on Twitter at Owen Bickford if you want to see links. But, yeah, thanks for stopping by. And, yeah, I'll be having even more fun next week, I'm sure. Okay, so add room watcher. This is going to be pretty similar. Bye. Okay, so then I'm just pasting some more. I'm going to have the just kind of things are clicking together in place a little bit better as I go here. So I think a bird just tried to fly into the window or something. I heard something. Okay, collaborator room ID. Collaborator.room ID. That'll be more consistent. That's good. Hang on a second. What is that? That was cute. I had a couple birds perched out of my window. Okay. Sounds like finches or something. As if I know anything about birds. Okay, so this is room underscore ID from the watcher. That works. And then deleted watcher. Okay, I'm not seeing any squiggly lines. That's good. And then, oh yeah, the last one here would be delete the room. Or broadcast when the room has been deleted. Deleted room. Okay, deleted. Oh, deleted room. Yes, I know I could have multi-selected and saved myself a few dozen keystrokes probably. Okay, I'm going to do one thing real quick off screen. Oh no, did I not? I did not. I thought I said. I thought I tweeted about this live stream earlier. Whoops. Maybe it didn't send. Weird. Okay, so let's see. Got to do a little bit of mid live stream promotion. I'm going to go. Let's say I'm going to go. It's almost 4:30. I guess happy 420 if you're celebrating local time. Plan to go. Let's say I'll go until 6 p.m. Okay. Got to get those juicy views. Live views, especially. Okay. So back to the code. So, okay. So I've added broadcast messages now. So anytime a change happens on a particular room, I can respond to that within the live view, which is really, really cool. Oh yeah, so I can do a subscribe function here. PubSub. We'll say base topic for this first one, and then we'll add a second version that will take a room ID. It's probably not even necessary to check against this. Base topic colon room ID. Okay, looks like I've been doing that correctly, so cool. So now I can come in here and say rooms.subscribe. Okay, I'm going to take the room ID here. I'm going to so topic is now going to be I think I'm going to call this live view topic. Okay, topic's not in the template. That's good. And then so that's live view topic now. Then I've got room ID, the first argument. So room ID will go there. Okay, I need to rename this to presence topic. I think that's a little bit clearer. All right, now I've got to do it. I'm not sure if there was another topic in here somewhere. Yeah. Oh yeah, I had handle params here. Which I don't really need anymore because it's actually being assigned in the... Yeah, I can clean this up because I'm getting the room out of the session hook anyway. So let's see. I'm going to remove almost all of this code here. This will be a no reply. Okay. So no reply. We're going to assign the socket with a room URI. This is the thing that gets copied to the clipboard. So now I don't actually need that. That looks a lot cleaner. All that logic got moved elsewhere anyway. Okay, now we're getting some, looks like we're getting some kind of errors. Unknown registry, LiveShowy web PubSub. Okay, that might be a problem. Oh, it's LiveShowy.PubSub. Which should be LiveShowy.PubSub. Cool. It's compiling. Sweet. Okay. So now, that's cool. Okay. So let's see. I've got a default handle info here. Okay. So let's ignore the presence diff for now. Basically, any changes that are coming from PubSub, like any messages that are coming from PubSub that are not presence related, those are going to be caught by this handle info kind of generic handler. And it's just going to log those out into the shell, which is fine. Let's see. So it's actually catching one down here. It's catching presence diff. Payload. Oh, it's doing that because this was actually changed to presence topic. That's why it's in the assigns. And it may not actually, it does need to be in there because like like sometimes you would do like a module attribute, but that would be compiled and it would not, like it wouldn't have the room ID, which is what we're using for this topic, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so but do I really need that? Like I could just use, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna add another helper function here. This will be like that. And this will be like this room ID. That's good. And this will be rooms.get topic room ID. Now, with that, I don't think I need, does it need to be in the assigns? I wonder. Like where else does that get used? Subscribe. So this is a trade-off. I could leave the room topic as an assign. It's already been fetched from the rooms module. It would save me from fetching that multiple times. It's a very cheap operation though, because it's just taking a like rooms string and injecting the colon and a room ID with that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it in the assigns for now, just to be it's already there. It's working. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's try adding or removing a collaborator. I'm gonna see LiveShowy.rooms delete. Oh, delete room collaborator. And this is going to be a map of assigns. So this is the room ID. Then this is going to be user ID. I need the ID for ON2. Yep, that's the one. Okay. Oh, it's supposed to be the collaborator struct, not like a map. Right, okay. That's a little bit easier, actually. It would be easier if I actually had the function to get the collaborator first. So maybe I should write that. Those are kind of mixed in with the room code. So I think I'm going to break these out into a separate section of this module. Okay, there we go. That makes sense. Okay, so now we need to be able to get room collaborator. Just to be consistent, I don't know why I would ever need preloads in this, but I'm just going to go ahead and put them there so that a preload, just to be consistent, preloads. Okay, then I think I can just let me make sure this works first. So I'm going to grab that user ID or the collaborator ID. Okay, there we go. So now if I take collaborator and then go to LiveShowy .rooms delete room collaborator. So I'm taking the room collaborator, passing it into delete room collaborator. Whenever I do this, I should see a response to the function that shows okay with the deleted collaborator. I should also see a debug message from the live view saying that it received a message, an unhandled message, that this collaborator was deleted. There we go. That's what happened. So we got unknown message from the room live module. Collaborator was deleted. We've got that collaborator in all of its structured glory. Awesome. Okay. That's cool because now, like I haven't broadcasted changes to the WebSocket yet, so that's why it still shows the collaborator here. But if I refresh the page, that collaborator is gone. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this to the, I'm going to copy that function for watchers as well. Okay. I think I've done a lot of work that needs to be committed here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. live view. Okay, one more before I go back. That's too much. I'm just going to call it whip. This is all going to get squashed before it's merged into the main branch. For sure. Okay. Oh yeah, I do have an IO inspect there. We'll just let it ride for now. Okay, so now back in Happy Land, I can start actually updating the list of collaborators and watchers whenever those events happen. Ooh. Okay. So how does that look? Handle info. So you got a pattern match on the thing you want to handle, like the message you want to handle. This is where it gets fun. So update. So I'm updating the socket. What do I want to update? So I've got the room assigned to the socket. I think I just gotta take the room value and then say function room. Then I think I need an end right there. Something's not right. Let's see. Update, mapped update. Okay. I think that works. So now I can do I'm going to add a room collaborator. Oh, there we go. And then I'm going to use my user ID as the inserter. Okay, so something kind of almost worked there. Username not found in. Right. Okay. So rooms. So here's the error. So whenever whenever I did that, I successfully added the collaborator, and the live view actually received that message and handled it correctly. The problem is that the collaborator, the user, is not preloaded, so it you can't get the username out of the user if it's not preloaded. Updated at creator. Can you preload? I wonder if you can preload whenever you do an insert. Let's find out. Let's see. I'm going to delete. Hopefully. Oh, I can't delete the room. Okay, so I'm going to delete it from the database. That'll be a little bit faster. Okay, so now I can add the collaborator again. Yeah, okay. So preload just won't work there. Before I start hacking something together, I think I'm going to take a look at the docs. Ecto. So I think insert is in here somewhere. Okay, there we go. So insert. Yeah, I don't, just skimming quickly here, I don't see a way to like have the user struct preloaded after an insert. Schema. I could just try this. Let's see. Don't think that's going to work. We'll find out, right? So recompile. Do I already have that in the database? Yeah, okay, so let me delete that row again. We'll try. We got a different error at least. That did work. That did work. Okay. So where are we missing the username? That's coming from must be in here somewhere. Username. So for each collaborator, users, user lists. So I'm taking all the collaborators. Oh, okay. So I think I need to take the collaborator.user here. That's what I was missing. Okay. So I think this is going to work. Well, I say that too often. Before I say I think it's going to work this time. It worked. It did work. It did work. Okay. So just to prove it, I'm going to delete that row again. I'm going to come back in here, refresh the page. So now if and I'm doing this the hard way, of course, but yeah, so I'm going to add the collaborator. Now it's showing up twice there. Maybe I'm making this too complicated. So I'm going to do this the less optimal way first. Thing is, if I do this, I have to remember to keep all of these preload keys consistent between these functions. For now, it's fine. I'm going to copy paste a little bit. Clean up that commented code, and then I'm going to, this would actually be cleaner if I just move these into a variable. That's better. Okay. Get room preloads. So I'll just take that. Put in a module attribute. How about that? Room preloads. I think that'll work. It's not the best approach, but it will work well enough. So, okay, so now I'm taking the room, getting the room based on the collaborator's room ID, preloading all the standard preloads. Then I can take assign room, so that'll just overwrite the room, and then I can also put a flash info. Okay. Let's just see if that works. It does. Sweet. Okay. Downside here is it's actually calling the database an extra time. So this is not the most optimal way to do this. Tricky thing is that like what I really would like to do is take the room from the socket and append the collaborator user to the room collaborators. I think I can do that like this. So I'm going to take the assigns. I'm going to take the room, and then let's see. I'm going to comment that out for now. So room is map.update in the room. Take collaborators. Then that's going to be a new map or a new list with the collaborator user. I'm going to prepend that to the list. This will save. If I don't, that equal sign always gets me. There we go. So this will reduce that hit to the database. Like once we're inserting the collaborator, that will show up here in this module as a message, which already has the room. The room already has a list of collaborators. Don't really want to have to hit the database to fetch all that information again. So this is going to, I think, do what it needs to do. So it will update the room, appending the new collaborator user into the collaborators list. It will reassign that room to the socket. Good. Okay. Just to make sure it works, we're going to run through this one more time. That didn't like the duplication there. First, before I run that again, I'm going to inspect what's going on. I don't know why it's inserting it twice, though. That's the weird thing. All right. Delete that. Wait. Okay, let me ignore that and see what happens when I'm not manually updating that list. That seems bizarre. So huh. Yes, there's a better way to do all of this testing, but I'm in the zone, kind of focused on this, so I don't want to get. I feel like I would kind of get off track if I start trying to parse this into a test. Okay, there we go. Is this function getting called twice? Like, why is that showing up twice whenever I... Hmm. Really, on... At this point, I should just send the user. Okay, let me take a quick stab at a couple things here in the rooms module. So I've got that. Okay, and then okay, so when I add a room collaborator, it will preload the user. I will broadcast to this room channel or this room topic that the collaborator has been added. And instead of sending the collaborator struct, I'm going to send the collaborator's user struct so it can be handled a little bit more gracefully. And then do the same with watcher. Also the same thing whenever it's deleted, so that those can be removed more easily. Still confused why this was showing up twice in the shell. That's weird. Okay. I'm going to remove this. Refresh the page. Yeah, why is that happening? Maybe I'm not subscribing twice, am I? Subscribe. Aha. Yeah, I'm using the same topic for presence. Oh. Okay. I'm using the same topic for presence and everything else in the room. So which is cool. I think that means I don't need that anymore. I think that makes sense. Okay, so let's do this again. That's what I wanted to see. Okay, so now I can clean this up a little bit. There we go. Cool. All right. Yes, I should be doing, I don't know, I could probably be TDDing that. PubSub is the one thing I haven't, I think the reason I'm not going TDD with this particular piece is I kind of go back and forth. It does tend to depend on like how well I understand the like the problem solving as well as the whichever tool I'm using. So like PubSub, I'd have to like read up and study to understand how to test PubSub within LiveView modules. Okay, so I think I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to be on for a while longer, probably till 6 at least. So that gives me another 50 minutes. I'm going to take a quick 5-ish minute break. So let me find something to play in the background. All right, I'll leave you with some random music while I'm out taking a break. All right, hope you enjoyed the tunes. Those are some oldies. I haven't really made a lot of music in the past couple of years. The intro song I've been using is fairly new. I did make that just for this live stream, so yeah, that's new. But yeah, I was kind of digging through some old like demos and stuff to see if there was more. I just kind of like looking for stuff I could reuse. Also, stuff I might revisit later on. So yeah, look forward to maybe tinkering a little bit more with that stuff later. But yeah, back to LiveShowy. So far I've been dealing with PubSub and presence. So whenever a user is connected, you'll see the active indicator, or not the active, but the connected indicator will turn green. Go ahead and go back to screen sharing here. So this indicator shows that this user is connected. This one shows that this user is not connected. But now what I was working on just a few minutes ago was rendering new collaborators whenever they're added in real time without refreshing the page, as well as a flash message here. So let's see, what else do I want to do? I think I want to handle the case where, well, first of all, I can copy this almost verbatim for watchers. That should work. And then I can deal with deletions. Ooh. Pardon me. So now what if I do deleted? Does that even work? Collaborator, I wonder, let's see. So if I have a list with 1, 2, 3, can I remove one of those items like this? Yes, okay, so that'll work. Well, that's pretty easy. Make sure I'm giving it the right key. Collaborator deleted. Yes, okay. All right, so I'll copy this as well for watchers. All right, now now we're doing the inverse. I've been adding a collaborator. Now let's make sure that a collaborator is deleted. I don't know if I necessarily want these flash messages. They're kind of noisy, so I think we're just going to remove those. Okay, so now I'm going to go to LiveShowy.rooms.delete collaborator. Oh wait, now I've got to get the collaborator first. Okay, then I can delete that room collaborator. Sweet. I don't know if you noticed, but the room collaborator disappeared whenever I did that without refreshing the page. So now I can add a collaborator. I can delete. Oh, I can't delete it with the same ID because the ID is different now. I can delete. There we go. Okay, so this isn't the driest code, but it's working. So I think I'm going to go ahead and commit this. And I think, again, I'm going to call this, is this not being used? Oh yeah, it's not being used because I stopped fetching the room every time a change happened. That's fine. Okay, so that's good. That's good. Just gonna lump all this together as a whip, and then be more specific in my PR. I feel my voice is getting a little bit sore from all this talking, so yeah, I think I will be wrapping this up at 6 o'clock. And then I'll talk about a little bit about what I want to do next, probably after the live stream or over the weekend. So I do have a long weekend. Juneteenth is actually Monday, so happy Juneteenth to anyone who might be celebrating. We are towards the end of Pride Month as well, so we got another week or two of that. So happy Pride to anyone out there watching. What else? What else do I want to do with this branch? Am I actually... Very good. So I'm not going to track latency within this branch. I'm going to mark that as a nice to have. Or actually, I'm just going to remove that from here. I think that really could just go into a separate branch whenever I've got users actually interacting. That's when latency is actually going to be very important once we have instruments and that kind of thing. So not extremely critical for this particular branch. This branch is all about getting a room and allowing users to create rooms, delete rooms, listing collaborators, owners, and watchers. I think the last thing I should do on this branch is allow I want the live view to allow the owner to add collaborators and watchers. So I think I'm going to make that my last couple of requirements here. Then I'm going to lay down and think about taking a nap for 30 minutes. Okay. So I think I can do this within 35 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to go to Room Live, Surface. Okay, so I think next to collaborators. So this is going to go in a flex box. Flex cap 2. We'll move this up in there. So there's going to be a button that when you click it, it's going to say, that's a big button. Let's make that a smaller button. Padding's a little bit weird on that. Oh, it's because it needs to be like items baseline probably. Because it's like stretching that add button vertically. Okay, I don't know. Center. This is where I get frustrated because like sometimes center looks better than baseline. Sometimes, like when they're close together, it's hard to know like which to use. I'm gonna go with baseline for now. Okay, so now if I hit this button, nothing actually happens. And actually, when I hit this button, I'm not adding a collaborator. I'm like, what I really need to do is like display a form that like allows, like you're going to need to search for a user by their username. And you may not want to list all the users. You probably want to like know the username. Like if let's say I'm in a band or I have a collaborator that I want to add, I will have spoken. I will know that person somehow, and they will tell me their username for LiveShowy. I'll come in here, hit add, fill in their username into a box, assuming that username exists. That user struct will be added to the collaborators. Okay, so I think what this button is going to do is show a user form of some kind. Form. Let's just say that. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So div flex items baseline gap 2. Okay, and then I can like tell the form which type of user I'm adding. Okay. Very good. So we're seeing the right thing in the shell. I don't know. I'm trying to pause for a moment because I want to write this. I want to try to get it right the first time, and I have to like iterate too many times on this. So I'm trying to think, like, where would I put this form? I could do a form that would kind of slide in here for adding a collaborator and then a separate one for watchers. And in that case, these buttons would change a little bit. Like these would be targeted, like this would be show collaborator form or show watcher form. Remove the values. Or I could do just one form that shows up maybe above or below this list, or like somewhere else around this list somewhere. Like if I'm a user, what makes the most sense? That's the tricky thing. I think I'm gonna want two separate forms that are kind of just in line with these things. If it's two separate forms, it should be a component. Maybe there should just be a field that's always there and doesn't have to be like shown or hidden. In that case, I can simplify this quite a bit. I think that's the name. So the name of the component is probably going to be something like add room user form. Type of user is going to be collaborator or watcher. This would work well if I wanted to support multiple room owners in the future. I don't think that's really going to be necessary. I think it makes sense for a room to belong to a single user. Just because, band politics can be a little bit messy. So that's a tangent. Anyway, so this room form, this add room user form. If I hit save now, I'm going to get some errors. Let me go ahead and start building up this room user form.ex. This is going to be def module, LiveShowy. Wait, what happened? Oh, it got created as a folder instead of a file. Whoops. There we go. Now I can say def module showy web.components.rooms add room user form. User There we go. Okay. So this is going to be a component allowing a user to be found by their username and added as a room collaborator or watcher. So this is going to be LiveShowy web. This is just a component. It's not even a live component. Def render signs do. This is F. Pardon me. Surface.components. Form. Then I need a prop for the type. It's going to be an atom. Required true. Pardon me for a second. All right. Forms. We're gonna have a form. We're gonna have a form with a field. Don't really need a change set for this. This is so basic. It's not actually saving anything into the database. It's just trying to find a user based on their username. So that's gonna be, I think, a text input. Then we're gonna have a submit button. Okay, I think I'll start with that. So this form is going to be, I think, a flexbox gap of, we'll say 2. Like I said, it's going to be super basic, so it's just going to have a text input, name, username, then a submit button. Is that really it? Okay, so that component exists now. I don't feel like typing any of that, so I'm just gonna paste it up here and then alias. So now, is that gonna work? Sweet. That's big. That's a big old form. Let's say text. It's gonna be small. I think I'm gonna give this. How big is the text here? Oh yeah, okay, so submit needs to be add ooh. Is this a bad idea? Let's see. Oh, that's not even gonna work. Oh, because it needs to be in brackets. There we go. Maybe. Nope. All right, why are we still reloading here? Oh, because that string was empty? Weird. All right, I can ignore the text size for now. That's not really critical for the first pass at this anyway. Okay, so it's going to add user. Now let me try this one more time. Okay, if I do this. That works. Okay. That's cool. Okay, so this type is required. So in the template, I'm saying this form is using type collaborator. This form is using type watcher. So the form 4 it's fine. It's kind of not really, like it's basically just going to pass. Actually, the value is just going to show up as username. So yeah, the 4 type's not super relevant here. But whenever we hit submit on this form, it's going to add whichever type was. So it's going to try to add a collaborator or a watcher or whatever Adam is passed in here. So whenever I hit submit, it's going to send an event message. So it's, in this case, it's trying to add a collaborator from this form. Whenever I hit add, and then the value that, like the payload for that is CSRF token, which ignore that, but the username is the important thing. So now that's really cool because now I can come in here to my handle event section. I can say def handle event, add collaborator. I'm going to pluck the username out of that payload. Socket. Okay, so now user is going to be accounts, which I have not even aliased here. Accounts.get user by username. That's what I want. So that'll be username. That's all I need for that. I'm going to say rooms. Add room collaborator. Nice. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Room, current user, room ID is going to be room.id. User ID is going to be user.id. Inserted by is going to be current user.id. Then we're going to just no reply socket, and let's see what happens. Before socket. I think I'm just incapable of remembering the equal sign before socket. All right, let's see. Does this work? If I hit ON2, it works. It does work. It works. It works. It works. And it shows up there. Oh, wow. That's great. Okay. So okay, I can do the same thing here. Oh, which will not work yet because I need to do add watcher. Sweet. All right. So another thing I can do is I can only render these forms if the current user is the owner. Of course, they show up for me. Let's see what happens if I open this in incognito with the ON2. Of course, I've got to log in first. Nice. I love live view. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay. So now I can focus on the appearance of these forms, which are a little bit absurd at the moment. They're like too big. So, and then I think the last thing I can do is handle deleting collaborators and watchers. I think within the scope of this branch, which has already kind of gotten a little bit larger than it should be, like transferring room ownership is something I think for now it's fine just to leave that as an admin thing. Like an owner can delete their room. That should also delete any collaborators and watchers. Let's just check and see if we shouldn't have a bunch of collaborators here or watchers. Yep, we only have one. So it's not keeping all of the collaborators for all of the rooms that have been deleted. As soon as a room is deleted, it deletes all of its associated collaborators and watchers. So that's good. But yeah, so I'm not going to deal with transferring ownership, but I can make these forms a little bit saner, and then I can deal with deletions. Just thinking about this, like I was thinking, okay, like a delete button or like an X next to each user is like what you would typically see in a web app. But within this form, I could just have a delete button. So like if I wanted to remove ON2, I would type ON2 and then hit delete. As far as like getting this across the finish line, and that might be the more sane way to handle this. That's a little bit tricky though, because then I would have to look up. Then I'm not like dealing with a watcher ID. I'm taking like a username, finding the user, like the watcher with that username if it's preloaded. So that's a little bit messy as well. That would make it a little bit more complicated. So yeah, maybe I'll deal with deletes in a minute. I think I'm going to deal with the form size first. Okay, so right now, like, do I want this form to show up below these headings or next to the headings? I think they could probably go next to the headings, right? First, I want to check autofill because I want to try to turn off that 1Password button since it's not going to be used for this field at all. And I think surface. So inside of a text input, this will be, maybe it's under form. Form auto fill off. I don't remember if this has to be on form or on the input or either. It could be either. Okay. So for the form, since this is a surface component, I've got to do it slightly differently. Like it has to go into that opts. The fields. Okay, so maybe it needs to be on the field itself. Let's try that. Wait, is it autofill or autocomplete? That didn't work either. Autocomplete off. Okay, so autocomplete is off on the form and the input, but we're still seeing this. Let me make sure it's showing that attribute correctly. Autocomplete off. Autocomplete off. I vaguely remember looking at this, and I think I think the 1Password. I may have to do a little bit more research on how to disable that, but that's also not critical for this particular branch. So we can just move on. Oh, by the way, I was going to mention this way earlier. A couple of days ago, it only took me a few hours to read through this, but there's a really cool book, online ebook. It's free. You can go to basecamp.com/shapeup. and the webbook is at this URL here. But this is a very useful course about, or like a book about, like tackling. Now this is, well, so it's about tackling like feature requests or like planning and like how you want to manage a product or a project over a long period of time. So, if you're a software engineer, you probably work in something called Agile, and that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different companies, even to a lot of different teams within the companies, and to the same team at different times. So that's something like the Agile, like the original kind of vision of Agile was not exactly the kind of Agile industry. They're not the same thing. But anyway, all that is to say, like Agile, the methodologies that people use and the kind of like the processes they try to use, a lot of times I find them to be a little bit less than ideal. And I've gone from having basically no formal processes to, I guess, what I'd call semi-formal Agile processes. If you're finding yourself kind of wanting more efficiency, this is one approach that's a little bit different, and it's tailored, so it's designed for product teams, so it's not necessarily designed for like agency work or consultancy or even freelancing. I think some of these ideas could be kind of adapted. Like they kind of started putting these thoughts together when, like before Basecamp, whenever like the creators were actually like part of an agency that they created before they like kind of pivoted to launching Basecamp and away from agency work. So ShapeUp's really cool. I'm really underselling it. But it kind of, at the very least, I think it helps kind of identify some problems you might be running into. It has several suggestions for the way they solve problems and tackle long-term project management at Basecamp. There are companies that use this, and for the most part, when I hear it brought up, it seems like it's liked by engineers and managers who use it. I've heard it's not like unanimous, so like there are definitely detractors. People have feelings about Basecamp, the company, and I think setting that aside, I would recommend ShapeUp. I enjoyed the read. It was a pretty quick read, and so I might be using a similar process as I'm building out LiveShowy. Of course, I'm not coordinating. That's the thing, is like I'm doing this all on my own. I'm not coordinating with anyone else. And I think that's where more formal processes really shine. But I could definitely see some advantages to thinking in kind of a longer term, more formalized process using something like ShapeUp or something else. Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent. So I'm going to go ahead and close that tab. I've got a couple of tabs open here. I'm going to read a little bit on CRDTs. I'm not really sure if that's something I'm going to need for LiveShowy. This is going to be an application that, if it's successful, it will be distributed across the globe so that people in different regions can collaborate with each other. I'm not really sure how possible it's going to be for users to collaborate like across like very, very far distances. I could see this working pretty well, maybe even extremely well, across like fairly close distances, like within a state, maybe within a region. That seems like that's pretty reasonable to expect for this application. But the thing is, like, so CRDTs, my understanding is that those work really well for cases where, and I'll just go to chatting screen here. So CRDTs seem to work best whenever, like, say you have a Google Doc, and you want multiple people in different places to be able to collaborate in real time. but they're kind of working on one artifact or one asset, one entity. And like if they're both making changes at the same time, they could conflict with each other. So CRDTs are kind of a way of like, I think it was described to me as like basically it's whatever data you have that's being sent to your application. It's basically appending a timestamp to it, and maybe a little bit of metadata. But anyway, I'm going to be reading up on CRDTs and even rich CRDTs. There's a database or framework or a tool called Vaccine, Vaccine.io, VAXINE.io. And so I think it kind of depends. Like, would this be useful for me in LiveShowy? If, like, say, if there was like a MIDI file that was going to be written with people playing like collaboratively in real time, that's, I think, where I would need something like a CRDTs. But if I'm not writing to a MIDI file, if I'm just taking like MIDI events from each user and like getting them to the server and then playing them back to the users so they can be like generating sound, I don't think I need CRDTs for that. I could be wrong, but that's what I'll be reading up on is just CRDTs. What are they? Are they going to be useful for me? And if they are, like specifically in which cases? Like I don't necessarily think I need to have each and every data type in the application defined as a CRDT. Another example of like a CRDT use case would be like a like counter. If you wanted to allow people to like tweets, for example, while they're offline, and you want those to be reliably synchronized into the server when the user is back online, or if there's like a latency or delay whenever they're hitting likes and like other people are hitting likes, then the way you do that is with CRDTs. So, and then I think the episode of the podcast that I listened to where someone was kind of explaining this, instead of like say taking like the like count and like saying, all right, the new like count is previous like count plus 1. So like if it was 5 and then I hit like, I'm not going to send like count equals 6 to the server. Instead, I'm going to send like a little meta event that says like from user timestamp, something like that. And then the server kind of receives those events and then has its own way of kind of aggregating that into a final value. So yeah, sounds exciting. Well, maybe it sounds exciting to you. I don't know. It will be interesting at least to learn about that. But yeah, I'm at just over 3 hours now, so I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I need to rest my voice. It's kind of getting sore now. Rest, maybe go for a walk. Enjoy the nice weather that we have outdoors today for this weekend. It's funny how like sometimes weekends turn out to be kind of rainy and you can't really do much. So this is one of those weekends that I want to take advantage of the weather while it's nice. So anyway, thank you for joining me on this adventure today with Phoenix Presence and PubSub. I hope you will join me in the weeks to come as I build out even more fun features. I think you're starting to see a little bit of fun interactions happening in the app. It's going to just get more and more fun from here. So again, if you want to find me on Twitter, my handle is @OwenBickford. I have some, like all the LiveShowy stuff is still private, but I do have some public repos on GitHub as well. Just take everything you see there with a grain of salt, because it's probably, like all the stuff I do professionally is not typically public. So yeah, those public repos maybe could be pruned a little bit. Anyway, I'm Owen Bickford. Thank you for watching this live stream or watching it in the future if you're on YouTube. And if you have questions or you want to, if you're interested in this project at all, just hit me up on Twitter, as long as Twitter is around, and I will be back live streaming next week.